Okay, sorry for that. We are back. This time around, I'm with a team member of Studio 316 who also took part in the Enterprise Pathway. I'm gonna be chatting to them just now, but before we begin, I want to remind you about the hashtag ProtoPlay on socials and about the ProtoPlay website. Check it out before it's offline. That's your chance to vote for the teams. Support them if you enjoyed any of the games on stream yesterday or today. There is still a few more to come, so make sure you stay tuned. And yeah, let's get started. Hello and welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself and your team, please?
Hey, yeah, I'm Joe. I'm one of the co-directors for Studio 316. Yeah, we're a small team of five developers currently. We graduated from Falmouth University in Cornwall
Mhm.
this summer, and yeah, we're creating Time Rivals.
Awesome, amazing. Okay, so let's hear about Rivals. What is it?
Yeah, so Time Rivals is it's a four versus four online, fast-paced, hero-based, first-person shooter,
Mhm.
where the twist is that players get clone pods of their characters that they can throw and place in the level as they fight, so that when they die or kill themselves if they want to, they can respawn at those clone pods when they've perished in the arena, and they can get to place them strategically, push through choke points, they can deny opponents kills, that kind of thing.
Oh, so a bit of counterplay to like one of the key mechanics almost that's been in just in general in this kind of video games for ages, which is interesting. What has been your inspiration for to create this sort of game? What sparked this project?
It was definitely a collective effort for sure. From it, the original concept of the clone pods, like choosing where you get to respawn on the map, was an idea that I pitched to the team all the way back in September of last year when we first started our third year of uni. But
Hmm.
the concept of the entire game that I pitched has changed quite dramatically since I did pitch it. Like everyone's had design ideas and contributions to how the game would flow and feel and originally we when we first prototyped the game, this was all the way back in a year ago now.
Hmm.
It was a top down, and then we ended up
Oh,
playtesting it
wow.
with first person as well, and we liked first person a lot, and it felt really really nice, and we just went with it, and it kept snowballing from there.
Oh, incredible. Okay, awesome. Right. That's actually quite impressive because we're looking at a huge change in development. When did you actually decide to make that change? Was that through any QA testing during Enterprise, or is that even prior to the Enterprise pathway?
Yeah, long time ago now. Yeah, so we started the development back in September of last year, and within maybe the first 2 3 months, we'd chosen to go to first person because
Hmm.
we got the prototype of the respawning and the clone pod mechanics put together really relatively quickly,
Hmm.
and we just tested putting the first person in there and saw how it played and how it felt, and it just suited it really well, and we just carried on with it and decided to put the top-down version to the side for now, and we ended up preferring it.
I see, I see. Awesome. From the looks of it, I believe you used Unreal Engine for the development.
Yeah.
Would you like to maybe say a few more words about the environment, which is looking amazing? So definitely kudos to the artists who have been working on that. How did that art direction come to play?
Well, we always had a look out for the like a stylized look for sure from the get-go. That's always the kind of thing we were targeting.
Hmm.
But we also kind of went for a more like PBR textures, like rendered, and it brings a more of a realistic feel, but also keeps that stylized look on the side as well. So
Hmm.
it's a look we had in from the get-go. But in terms of the environment, I can't, say we take all the credit for it. Some of the assets in there are from packs to
Hmm.
convey the idea of what we want the environment to look like. But
Yeah,
all of the characters in there are all done by team members, and they all match the art style really well. But yeah, it's just that stylized kind of feeling that you get from those the environment and that characters that really plays into like the style of gameplay as well.
yeah, yeah. What would you say you are most proud of? Which aspect of the game you are the happiest with? It doesn't have to be even something that we may notice as a viewer. Like you personally, what in there is like, yes, I'm so glad I made it happen.
Um, well, I suppose the clone pod mechanic itself, if we're talking about me personally, I'd say the
Yeah.
clone pod mechanic itself, because the idea of having that kind of respawn mechanic and concept was what I pitched to the team in the first instance a long time ago,
Hmm.
and it's been the centerpiece of the game, the USP, pretty much everything has been built around it. So that's probably the thing I'm most happy with, and seeing people play it and interact with it and enjoy the game as well, is also just like an incredible feeling.
Awesome, awesome. What about the most challenging part?
Man, I mean, there's quite a lot, for sure.
I can imagine
Uh,
it's looking like a really complex project, but
yeah, of course,
yeah.
it's ambitious.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
really ambitious. And there's challenges not even just in the game side as well, right? There's, when you think about starting up an indie development studio, it's like there's so much business side that comes into it. Making the game is, some people would say it's only 50% of it. There's so
Hmm.
much on the background that you don't really think about that has to be done in keeping everything flowing, working,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
pipelines going and stuff like that. But I'd say maybe the multiplayer has probably been quite a challenge getting
Hmm.
it like to the point where we want it to be, especially with Steam as well. We had a little bit of a hiccup with getting it working with Steam, but yeah, it definitely, it's not an easy task for sure getting that kind of infrastructure going.
Hmm. Hmm.
But now we're there, like I think we're really in a good place for that.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'm interested about this clone pod mechanic. What decisions in development did you have to make it well, a balanced feature in the project?
Well, I mean, I suppose when you make it the USP, you have to kind of make almost all your design decisions around it in making it the core feature of the game. So whenever we were thinking about level design, and map design, even down to like location, it was all based on like how you would interact in that level with the clone pods, like where there would be spots you can throw them to get
Hmm.
like an advantage on your opponents, or there's choke points that you can push through, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like for the level, it was always those decisions. Obviously, in terms of balance, there's a pretty big task there in making sure that they have the right amount of clone pods at the right amount of times, and like the cooldowns for using them isn't too long, so they have enough of them to like stay within the fight in the arena for long enough, and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Balance is always going to be a massive issue as well, especially when you have hero-based characters. They all have their own
Absolutely.
unique
Yeah.
unique weapons and abilities, and that kind of thing is always going to be a bigger challenge.
Hmm. Did any of the other teams in the enterprise pathway aid you in your development, or maybe influenced it anywhere in any way where you thought, oh, maybe I can do it this way. That is a much better solution. So I'm talking apart from any QA testing, which we are gonna get to in a second.
Um, I suppose not directly. I suppose we were quite self-focused in a way.
Hmm.
We didn't really think too much about what all the other teams were doing. We tended to like really knuckle down and tunnel vision on what we were doing. So I wouldn't suppose we took too much inspiration in terms of like how the game goes, but we've been like speaking to a lot of teams just generally about like socials and how they do their social stuff, and as well as playtesting. Like we have had a few people come through, playtest a game with us and stuff like that, give us feedback, which is great. So we,
So
you know, we,
yeah. So how's that playtesting actually? You can expand on that now. How
yeah,
what were the first impressions of your project, and how did you iterate
well,
on it maybe?
we started playtesting as soon as possible, really, back in university when we had like the core prototype ready. We were, doing like every 2 weeks we would get as many uni students to come and play the game with us, so we could get feedback on like feeling and
Hmm.
and how the clone pods worked. And that really was like the basis as to where we are now, because if we hadn't have done that and like play tested it and had people tell us that they enjoy using the mechanic and it's like it feels nice, we probably wouldn't be where we are at now, because we wouldn't have had the feedback to know what to change and what to
Hmm.
iterate on.
Hmm.
But currently, we've got a playtest today. At 3 o'clock, our servers go live, so on it you can download the game and give it a play.
Awesome.
It's a little bit different to other people's projects in that obviously because it's multiplayer and servers open.
Hmm.
We for the entire week of ProtoPlay this week we couldn't have everyone playing, but we have to do dedicated playtest sessions, especially at the stage we are in development. But yeah, I mean, we had a streamer come by and play the game yesterday, Panther Aaron on Twitch. He came and played the game with us and with a few of his friends, and it was really nice seeing them just like laugh and have fun and get into some funny moments. And
Hmm.
like use the clone pod mechanic as it's intended to be used as well. I was seeing that happen as like you know seeing your game used as intended is
Yeah.
like perfect form of feedback.
It will not always happen, but that's where QA testing comes into play, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
see how you can maybe fix anything that you didn't foresee yourself. Okay, so we discussed the feedback. I'm gonna backtrack a bit before we jump into the nitty gritty future of the studio. What are you looking to do, etc. Your studio name, the number that's on your hoodie. Where does it come from? What does it mean?
I suppose everyone likes to think they've got like a really special story for their studio name, but ours is
That's what I
just a bit.
hope for, because I like hearing those.
It's just a bit of a funny one, really, because like when we joined the third year of uni, there was obviously however many teams you get
Mhm,
in the third year, and everyone before they had all their team names decided, you just got put into like basically numbers by the uni, and
mhm.
because we were in the third year and we were the 16th team in the third year, so we got
Oh,
given team 316, and
okay.
we put studio in front of it and said it a few times, and we felt like it rolled off the tongue, and we liked the sound of it, and we ended up sticking with it. So that's where it came from. Yeah, it's nothing
Nice.
too extraordinary, but yeah, just
No,
a little funny
I
story, I
think it's
suppose.
great. I must tell you that it does. There is simplicity in it, which makes it easy to memorize. So
Yeah,
there you
yeah.
have it. Good job with that. So speaking of
Cheers.
studio, what's next for the Studio 316? What are you looking to do? Are we gonna be hearing more about the game? When are we gonna hear more about the studio? What's the plan? What's the ambition?
Time Rivals, more of Time Rivals for sure. Yeah. Like I said, we got playtest today. We're gonna, try and get as many more playtests in as we can
Hmm.
when the time's right for the game. Hopefully, before the end of this year, we'll
Hmm.
get another couple of playtests going. But we are still in the pre-production phase, so at the end of this year, we'll go into in production. And
Awesome.
that means we'll see, hopefully we'll get the Steam page up. People can go on Steam, wishlist the game, and that kind of
Nice.
thing.
Nice.
We'll get more playtests and like alpha and beta playtests going and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Hopefully, maybe we'll get some little merchandise going. People can buy some hoodies and stuff
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
studio, and we've also got some clients involved as well, so we've got a bit of contracting work for the studio. So we're going to do
Awesome.
some more Unreal Engine development work for them. So yeah, we're
Awesome. Awesome.
we're doing okay.
Wonderful. Can I actually ask you, because it's been an engine of choice for many teams we have noticed throughout Enterprise Pathway. Maybe you can give some insights why you've gone the route of Unreal Engine over like Unity, and how are you seeing it benefit your project?
It was almost an automatic choice,
Okay.
really. I mean, one of our programmers and technical artists on the team, he's just an absolute Unreal Engine wizard. So he
Mm-hmm.
knows like so much there is to know about Unreal Engine. Like you
Mm-hmm.
ask him a question, he'll probably be able to give you an answer.
Awesome.
So that was kind of why we went with it in the first instance. But even then,
Okay.
like for me personally, like I'm a designer,
Mm-hmm.
so like implementing features mechanically and that kind of thing in
Yeah.
Unreal Engine with their blueprint system is just
Mm-hmm.
way more user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you can really find that any specialism, like a 3D artist, like a 2D artist, a designer, audio, anyone, if they wanted to implement features or that kind of thing, like in Unreal Engine, it's really is as simple as kind of going in and just being able to like figure it out within like half a day of just kind of like testing with things and looking at a couple of YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like the experience for a new user in Unreal is just we feel is way more easy. So it means that a lot of the team who don't have loads of experience in like
Mm-hmm.
mechanical design, that kind of thing, they can come into Unreal and implement things just a bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In terms of actually working with engine in a team as a team properly on a video game, what sort of skills do you feel like you have really expanded on and or gained throughout like the your journey through the pathway?
Man, so much. So much. Yeah, loads of things. I mean, I know for Jamie, our programmer, he's been like deep diving heavily into multiplayer.
Hmm.
So he's been getting so much experience in how all of those systems work and the infrastructure behind it.
Hmm.
Like personally, like I've been doing a lot of the business side of the game as well. So any game dev business things I've been handling, and that's just been like every day is a school day for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You really do learn things every day,
Hmm.
especially with the challenges as well. When you pretty much wake up and go to your PC and you're faced with a new challenge to overcome, then it really is like that. You learn something
Yeah, those
pretty much every
happen.
day.
Even something
Um,
that was working yesterday ends up just all of a sudden
exactly.
today
Yeah.
becomes the next big quest you are onto,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, but we all love it. like
Yeah.
jumping at the deep end. That's exactly what we want to do.
Hmm.
So.
Awesome, awesome. Any key tip maybe you can give viewers, other game devs, like personally, like something that you know would have worked for you out of your experience? What would you say?
Um, Organization, like I suppose it can't really be overstated too much, but like really just it sounds boring, but get your game design documents done.
Hmm.
Get your flow diagrams of how your game's going to work. Get that organization, the pipelines ready, so that when you do come to getting into full swing of development, you know where you're going to be at what stage, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
And playtesting for sure. Like you really learn a lot about your game from just like playing it a couple of hours every week. Even if it's just internally, even if you just get your friends, your family, like just play the game as often as you can, because you
Hmm.
get lots and lots of feedback from it.
Hmm. Awesome, awesome. Uh, I'm not gonna be finishing up the interview yet. We're gonna jump back into the game because we
Mhm.
still have time. We are good on the schedule, and I would like to ask more gameplay specific questions.
Go
More
for it.
gameplay specific. For example, time rivals.
Yeah.
I didn't expect the clone pod. I was expecting something, well, essentially time,
Yeah.
regarding time, something to do with time,
It is in
Um,
there for sure.
it is
Yeah,
in
it
there.
is in
Okay,
there.
so can we maybe hear more about it? Because I
Yeah.
didn't spot it personally. Maybe viewers realized where the time comes into play, but where is the time in the game?
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't come across so much at the moment. We haven't got as
Hmm.
much environmental storytelling and that kind of narrative that we wanted to implement just yet. But the narrative of the game that is that it's a game show. It's set in the far far future. It's a broadcast over the world to millions of people, and it's essentially a game show where the time rivals, they're selected by the showrunner. Because of their abilities and their weapons and their capabilities, and then
Hmm.
they're sent through time travel portals, and they can go to different like periods. They could go to somewhere old and obscure future, somewhere well known. They could like fight in Wembley Stadium, or they could go fight in the streets of Venice or anything like that. So that's the time travel element, is that it's set in the far future where the technology is there and allows the rivals to travel through time into different arenas
Hmm.
and settings. And that really gave us um like not too many constraints, I suppose, both on characters and on levels and maps and locations and that kind of thing. It really allowed us to kind of, I suppose, go wild, I suppose, with the concepts of like the characters and where we end up fighting.
Hmm. Hmm. No, it definitely, from what you are saying, it also shows that it does consider the how you can expand the game in scope in the future as well. You mentioned like the stadiums, different real
Yeah,
life places that you could implement as well. It would
yeah, for
definitely
sure.
make for a pretty cool gameplay. I'm probably gonna state the obvious that many people might have noticed, but it does resemble. I do get that vibe of Overwatch, those sort of games, Overwatch, Paladins. What would you say in your game? In which ways do you feel it's essentially better as a designer? What would you say? Like this is something we have improved on. We are really proud of it.
Yeah, obviously that comparison to AAA is always going to be there, and it's like one of the toughest ones to answers. But I suppose at the
Yeah,
point
it
we're
is a
at,
hard question. If I may say, just
and
to the viewers as well, it's something that is really difficult to
yeah,
in many cases come up with like a core answer. But go ahead.
and especially as indie developers, you probably, when you think about it, you don't expect to be competing with those AAA companies, especially with
Yeah.
their budgets and their
Hmm.
team sizes. But
Yeah.
obviously, your game is going to be competing with them. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, we don't mind being compared to Overwatch because obviously they have a big fan base and people like their game and their playability. So if people say, "Oh, it kind of feels a little bit like Overwatch," it kind of plays a little bit like Overwatch. We take it slightly as a compliment, but then we also aim to like take that classic first-person shooter experience and just use the clone pods
Hmm.
and the narrative of the game to put that twist on it and provide the players with something different, both with the characters and the way that they can use the clone pods to their advantage. Using their deaths, like you don't have to worry about dying because that's the advantage in the game.
Hmm.
And it really just kind of changes up that first person like gameplay loop.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and in the future we plan to bring in like more rivals, more maps and different game modes and that kind of thing. So obviously the content is obviously going to be built on and gradually improved over time, so we can add to
Absolutely.
like character storylines can be improved, there'll be better narrative in there and that kind of thing. The game modes will get better, and obviously with the player feedback as well. Like something that I feel like is probably the most important thing, especially I suppose when you're trying to develop a game like this, is listening to your players because
Yeah,
they're the
yeah,
ones that are playing it, right? They're the ones enjoying
exactly.
it. And especially for us, right, we've been developing it for a year now, and we've been playing
Hmm.
it constantly. Like our idea of fun, especially in context of time rivals, is kind of gone out the window.
Hmm.
So like hearing from the players and hearing them say what is fun and what isn't, what they'd like to see in the game. Like we're going to really listen to our community and try and hope that we can get them involved in the development of the game and its evolution as much as possible.
Yeah, huge, huge. I mean, well said. Also, just going back to the comparisons with other games. Um, I hope you didn't take it wrong by any means. I feel
No, not
like
at all.
it's
It's
hard.
always going to be a question. We should be prepared for it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think in video games industry especially, you do see sometimes on maybe like app stores and such, you know where a game is a copy. But I do feel like just as a society, in a way, without even knowing it subconsciously, we are collaborating and pushing the games and the genres by learning from one another, right? Uh,
yeah, of course.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like we're all avid gamers at the
yeah,
studio, so we've all kind of like gone through playing from when we were kids on the PS2s and
mhm,
PS1s, like playing all of the first person shooters up until now, right? So we've had all of
exactly.
that time playing those games, getting that experience and like understanding what we like in the games to kind of create time rivals the way we want.
Exactly,
And
absolutely, and that's like the beautiful thing. There is nothing wrong with enjoying what you love about the games and making it into your own. And that essentially, those kind of games tend to be really amazing because you put everything you love about the games into work, and that's when you get like really gems of games. So,
yeah.
definitely way to go. And stylized FPS shooter, anyone can easily compare it, but when they play it, without a doubt, they'll when they start discovering the new characters, new mechanics, that kind of comparison will, I feel like, will not be there anymore when players
Yeah.
get to experience something that is, well, very much different in many
Yeah.
aspects of it, right?
It's always a visual comparison, I
Yeah,
suppose. When
definitely.
when you first see it and you
Yeah,
see the gameplay, you think, oh, that kind of looks like
yeah.
Overwatch. But it's always going to be about the feeling that you get when you're playing the game and how it feels to play it at the time. So
Absolutely, and your mechanics as well, the lore, all of that certainly contributes to it. Um, your socials, they've been linked in the Twitch chat. So as we are finishing up, I'll let you do any shout outs, any last few words you would like to say to the chat.
yeah, I suppose thanks to anyone that comes and play test the game with us either yesterday or tomorrow or today even. Yeah, we appreciate everyone for coming to play the game. Shout out to my mum because she's an absolute G. Shout out to everyone in the Studio 316 team. Obviously, you guys have been working super hard over the last year, so pretty proud of everyone there. And shout out to Meteorite Media as well from coming from Falmouth University. So yeah, props to them.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Best of luck with your game's development. You've done really amazing on it. And
Yeah.
yeah, next up we're gonna go into a short break, and right after I'm gonna introduce you guys to Astral Adventures team, and we're gonna be viewing their footage together, and I'll give some commentary on that. So I'll speak to you guys shortly.